Hey everyone, how's it going? Benzo here, starting our basic module. We're going to learn a bit more about using Cinema 4D and also some techniques that I use the most here. Don't worry, you are now going to explore Cinema 4D. In case you don't know, there is a module we provided on basic C4D for you to study. But here I will also give you an overview of what we use, why it is made, how it works, where it lives, the basics of Cinema 4D. So let's get started. Look at that transition. My transition is still showing up here at the bottom and here at the top. My transition here still isn't very good, but it will get better. You know, Sunday. Cool. Now, man, I'm going to disappear now because I don't want to interfere with our understanding of the basics of the software. Well, Cinema 4D has this big stage here, which is the stage that we will always use to create our beautiful, wonderful scenes, right? To move here, I can use the Alt key plus mouse click, Alt T with the right button for scaling, Alt T with the left button for rotation, and the scroll wheel of the mouse can scale. You can also repeat these same functions with the key 1. This key 1 here on the keyboard, that is right here on the keyboard. Oops, let me show you with my camera. Key 1, here it is. This key 1 here on the keyboard, right? I have a different camera. I can use 2 cameras. Really cool, man. So 1, 2, and 3 on the keyboard. You can then do it with a mouse click. Then there's the transport, right? The movement of the scene. Transport is a hassle. Here is 2 for scaling and 3 for rotation. To move around, Cinema 4D has this main stage. Here, this stage, right? We also have the object list section here. So when you click on a cube, you'll see that the cube appears both here and in the main stage, in our little scene, right? Here you can access the top, front, and side views. And if you want to see the shader as it is here, each of them has submenus that you can find under display, gold and shade lines. And here you can do the same thing. I'm going to turn off because I want to focus only on the main part, which is the perspective section, right? Here, we will technically bring our shot to look really nice. I'm currently clicking on this camera break, which is pretty cool. Instead of using the mouse button 3, forgive me, I use the keyboard more than the mouse. I use 3 and the right mouse button instead of the left mouse button. It will break for me at this angle, which I find quite interesting for making some shots as well. So let's delete our primitive here, and now let's rotate my view again. Wow, this setup looks really nice. I want to go back to normal now. View, frame, default. It returned to the initial stage for me. Well, Cinema 4D works well in plug and play. You will always be able to click on things here, and they will appear in the scene. If something doesn't appear in the scene, it's because it has another function. You see, I'm clicking on these 3 little guys, and they don't appear in the scene because they need something to function. The same goes for those down here. They also need someone to perform their function. Let's go ahead and understand these colors that are here. If you are not seeing this layout, you must be using an older version of Cinema 4D. So go back to this tab, Standard. You might have this layout at home. You can access the new layouts here. So New Layout, I will go to Standard. What is this tab here on the side? It makes me very happy, very satisfied. Well, then I'm going to click on the objects so we can generate the geometries, right? They are the colors light blue, 1, 2, and 3. Here in the first case, I am creating a vector because this guy here, this rectangle, can serve some functions. One of the cool functions here is that we can extrude it. So let me come here and give an extrude. And then you'll already understand how these little guys that are green here work. As I mentioned, they operate in the scene, but they need someone to function. So these little green guys here will change the state in some way. Here in my angle, it is in vector. I will place it below the extrude. It will then give me an extrusion there, where it will gain a submenu that I can control. All right? So we already understand that this works as combinations. And look, I placed it under the object. You will see this several times within the software, where to place it on top or underneath. Sometimes there will be some confusion, but I can already assure you that the little green guys will always stay on top. You can even place an object, for example, a cloner, inside another cloner. But they will always technically be at the top. The guys who are blue, they are the ones who generate the geometry for us. Just like I created the rectangle with the extrusion, I will now do the spline test. It will extrude my text there. Oops, I press Ctrl-Z. I go down here, and then there is the extrusion of this spline, so it works this way. I will now grab another little green object. I will take this cloner, and we will place the cube underneath it. So he created a cloning system for my cube here, right? I placed it down here. The clone is there, and my clone also has a submenu that I can even change. It's good to always explore these submenus in Cinema 4D. They contain a lot of information, right? So I can change the type of mode here because some algorithms come pre-installed from the factory. In fact, you can't change this here, right? I would really like to add more options here, but you have to use the algorithms that are available within the tools of Cinema 4D, which are already quite numerous, right? They serve us well. So here I can change, for example, the radius and increase the number of polygons. I can add an object to place it here to the side. I can go to my cloner and change the mode to an object. And then I come here and drag my sphere over here. It will clone it for me on top of the object. All right, we understand that our software is plug and play. When I click on anything here, something visual should appear on the screen. If nothing visual appears, it means it requires a combination. Now let's understand. We've already seen the green ones. Let's explore a bit of these purple ones. The purple ones are geometry deformers. So let's go ahead and take a plane, which is found here in the primitives. Now we will work with these purple ones. Let's take any of them. For example, the displacer. Let's take the displacer, or we can take the easier displacer. The displacer will go under the geometry. The displacer is a deformer. It is purple and belongs to this category. They will always be placed below the geometry now, or they can also be part of the same group now. If I have them in the same group now, I can affect all of them together. But let's understand how this part of the displacer works. Here I have a geometry, this plane, right? And now I want to deform it here with the displacer. The displacer, or other maps, will deform the geometry. In this case, this displacer works as follows. It has to operate with a shading system of a map. It is a black and white map. I can put a gradient here, for example. It will change it for me there. It has already left one part up and another part lower. I can put a noise here. For example, the noise will create this deformation because my noise map is all perforated here. There are a lot of little dots. It's black and white, so you can even change the noise map to make it react, right? Here I have the texture issue, meaning the submenu is very valuable for you to explore over and over again. I'm going to increase the resolution of my plane a bit, setting it to 120 by 120. 120 and 120 and 120 and 120 cent. And there you can see the design of my displacer, which is this little map I love called Uber. I also advise you to start getting familiar with this little gradient menu here because you might end up memorizing one or another later. I memorized just 3 here, no need for more than that, to understand how the maps work. Each of them will really have a specific function to create an effect or to make a deformation, as I am using in this case. Here, now we are going to press Ctrl-Z, so the deformer works under the object. Let's bring it over here, another one. Oops, 120 here too, right? Let's bring an FFD connector over here. This one no longer has the word connector, right? They removed it. I'm going to place it under my plane, and I will adjust its size with fit to parent. And it's there, it disappeared, right? So let's increase its size a bit to get it back to normal. And now I can access it. I'm even going to increase my grid a bit more. Let's click on the FFD. And I came here to the points, clicked on the point, clicked here on rectangle selection, and let's select. You can then change your geometry based on a deformer. It's going down, a little up, very well. So these guys here work to deform our object. What else do we have to discuss about Cinema 4D? We have already looked at the menu and the submenu. Now let's talk about the tag system. Let's bring a plane over here. Let's bring a sphere over here and plan together to work well. Cinema 4D is one of the few software programs that uses a tagging system, and I find that very valuable. So, here I have the option to add tags to things. I can place a label with an algorithm that starts sending this information to the object. So, for example, I want this plane here to behave like a fabric. How can I send this information to the software? I will come here to the tag, go to simulation, cloth, and now it has added a tag to my plane that does the following. It sends the information that this object now has an algorithm, a fabric behavior. This fabric, as indicated by the tag, can receive forces, gravity, and turbulence. So this tag is now in a condition where this object starts to receive a specific fabric algorithm. It's important to highlight that this object is parametric. It is an object that has parameters. I can come here and change the object's parameters. It is not an editable object, yet, as I do not have access to the lines, faces, and points, I will explain later what makes an object editable or not. But here, I can place the tag both here and on the sphere. If I want to transfer this tag here, I hold down Ctrl, click, and drag. I can transfer the tag without deleting it from its origin, or I can just click and drag, and I end up dragging the entire attribute to the next object. In this case, I want to go back, and let's press play to see how it works. Okay, it falls, as I mentioned. These dynamic systems here, tags or something like that, they already react to the forces, right? And we have to remember that 4D, it already comes with gravity applied. Let me bring my camera back a bit to talk to you. There you go, look at that. So, Cinema 4D has gravity built in. So we can turn off its gravity here and apply a new force, like turbulence. So let's go. Let's put it here in Edit. Where's Edit? Here, I have this project settings, which is Ctrl D. You can press Ctrl D and you'll access this little menu that's above my head, right here above me. And then you'll do the following. Let me shrink my little camera a bit. The other me is showing up, the multiverse of Bezos. Here I have a tab for the settings of your project. So it even showed me that the simulation is yellow. I will go here to simulation and turn off my gravity. Later, I will explain that there are two simulation systems within Cinema 4D. But in this case, I want to show you how tags work and not simulation. I turned off gravity here and I will hit play. Okay, nothing happens. Cinema 4D has, in addition to this gravitational force, other forces already built into the software. Here in simulation, I can go to forces and add our famous turbulence. This guy here, turbulence, I will now set the following. Let's play it here to see what's happening in the scene. I'm going to remove our work plane down here in filter work plane so we can have an easier time visualizing. And I'm going to hit play. So strange, scale, it's always trial and error. So you can see that it's reacting to a fabric behavior, this plane of mine. I can even change the number of squares or the resolution that I have in our object. And now I want to transfer this tag to the sphere. Is it possible? Is it possible? Let's pause here and come back. And now let's apply this tag to the sphere and hit play. My sphere doesn't have as many polygons as the square does, so let's go back here and do the following. Since my object here is parametric, I can change its parameters. I have some algorithms that come pre-installed, right? I can come here and add, for example, an icosahedron. I'll give you a tip that fabrics work much better when the mesh is triangular in your simulation, which is why Houdini has a node specifically for this triangulation that is very neat. I will increase the segments here a bit so we can have a resolution that's a little more similar to our plane, and then we'll go back and hit play. So note that when you drag the tag from one side to the other, it takes the characteristics that belong to your tag and transforms that object into a state that is predetermined by the tag itself. In this case, it's a fabric. So this is the tag system. In Cinema 4D, which is very useful, you use it for almost everything. Tags. You can drag the tags from one side to the other. Very good. Now let's talk a little about the second simulation system. and also show you how some of the MoGraph modules work. I showed you the cloner earlier here, and you will see much more about it. I will show you that in fact, MoGraph is one of the most attention-grabbing features within Cinema 4D. It has several functions. There are 17 effects, if I'm not mistaken, here on the right side. So they are tools that help us work with motion design and motion graphics. So I want to show you how the Voronoi fracture works, so you can get a little taste of what's to come. The Voronoi fracture, when I click there, nothing happens on my screen because it is a green object. It needs to be combined with another object in order to perform its function. So I'm going to click here on our beloved cube, and I'm going to shrink the cube there. Note that I reduced the cube here just by clicking on the screen and dragging. So I have some shortcut keys that I use for rotation, which is the letter R, scale, which is the letter T, and displacement, which is the letter E. I always connect with the letter T and drag it off the screen to make it smaller or larger. All right? So let's go ahead and increase our beloved little cube. It will now receive the wonderful care of the Voronoi fracture. I'm going to drag it down here. It will perform a specific function for me, right? You see that each of these little green guys has a specific function that it will execute under a geometry. We will see them as the course progresses, so don't be afraid because some of them are even new and I don't even know how they work, like these grow grass ones here. I've never seen how they function. I will study it in the course along with you, my friend. Well, let's go. The Voronoi fracture breaks the object into several pieces, right? I'm going to show you how this works. Here in Source, I have this tab called Point Generator, which I'm going to click on and move up a little bit here. Here below, I have an algorithm, which comes ready-made from the factory that I can always check to see what options are available to me. So I will always be poking around here and checking what options I have. I have the option for normals. I have the option for reverse normals. Here I have the option to increase the number of points, and then it procedurally generates a break of a specific object. What is cool about 4D that I can once again use the same system from tag. I can drag things and they can be replaced. Let's place a sphere here, and now I'm going to drag the sphere into the Voronoi fracture. It will take the same characteristics from there and will continue doing. Oops. Your algorithm. I made a small adjustment here. It gives a preview time. Let's take our cube here. Here's another tip. If you want to take control of the object in the scene, for now, you can come here and delete the X so you only have it as a guy excluded from the 3D society. Oh man, that's sad. Note that my original geometry is still preserved, right? The lines here from the spheres are preserved. They do not interfere with the break here. The Voronoi is a very powerful algorithm that works very well, and I will now show you how it works in practice. We are now going to work with another tag, which is a tag called hit of body, hard body. I will come here to the tag. Stay here in bunch tag rigid body, add rigid body, and now it gives the condition that my Voronoi fracture is an object that will receive gravity and can collide with things. In this case, I want it to collide with this plane that is down here, right? This guy here. So I need to tell the software what it should do. So let's go plane, come here. I'm going to call you collider. And now your collider will receive another tag saying, look, I am a body that should be a collider for someone. So he comes here, collider body. And the tag now sets the condition that this body is a collider. So let's hit play here, remembering that the gravity forces in Cinema 4D come with default functions, so it's already working. I'm going to hit play and pray that my PC doesn't explode. Oh my god, yay! So he broke it into tiny pieces for us using the tag system. To control the gravity, press Ctrl D. I mentioned that the Cinema 4D system has two types of simulation. There is the more modern simulation, which is this simulation here, encompassing all these tags like cloth rope, soft body, connect, cloth belt, blah blah blah. It's a lot of good stuff. A new algorithm working well. The bullet tag is a slightly older algorithm, but it is functional. I hope they improve the speed of this algorithm but it is a different ecosystem. It is another ecosystem. So when I come here to simulation and adjust the gravity, it does not interfere with the bullet tag. For this, the bullet has its own version here of the bullet tag. You can come here to the gravity settings and either enable or disable it. In this case, I don't want to remove it because I'm going to use it, right? So there it is, working for you to understand the project settings here in the scene. I also want you to understand that this part of the project is where I set the FPS for my project. We work with animation, and sometimes we need to export the project at 24 FPS, which many cinema screens use, or 29.97 or 30 FPS, whatever it may be. Let's play it again and go back. I think we've wrapped up this part nicely. We've talked about tags and a graph, and now let's talk about animation. Look, all the objects have this coordinates tab, which contains global actions. Within Cinema 4D, all objects will have position, rotation, and scale. Generally, we spend a good part of our time animating these parameters that are here. How can I animate and generate an animation curve here in Cinema 4D? Well, the timeline is a timeline system. If you work with motion software or have seen something like it, you will already be familiar with this type of timeline here. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to click on the cube and move it down like this from side to side. Here, I will then place a keyframe, which is nothing more than a record of information. So let's go. I will place a keyframe here at X0. I will move my needle on the timeline all the way down. And now I will register another piece of information. So for this, I am at position 0. I want new information. And now I have new information that I want to record. To register it, I will just come here and click again with the mouse. It registers the information. So now it means the following. I will move from this point to that point. This is an animation, right? This is an animation where we give life to the objects. For those who are more advanced and want to work with the animation curves, we can come here to Window, Shift, Alt F3, and we will have access here. My little window opened on the side, the animation curves. Remember that this part here is a very artistic, very personal part for each individual. Everyone sometimes has a specific theme, but I want to address here the themes that are more commercial, which we can sell more easily. So by adding or adjusting these vertices here, you will have a different behavior of the object in the scene. Just take a look. It's really cool to work with. And it's great for you to show a bit of your animation DNA. Well, I will wrap up our basic lesson on Cinema 4D here. Now, let's explore in the next step how to create a 3D logo based on a vector. We will see how it is done from scratch. And in practice, how can you take advantage of this little lesson in your daily life? A kiss from base, and see you in the next class.